Oh, brothers and sisters, sorry, I've lost my voice. So I'm going to do my best with this. I apologize. Richie tells me not to apologize. Hold on for just a second. Okay. This is the best we're going to get. So tonight we're going to talk about Padre Pio. He was the one that prophesized about the 3 days of darkness. I mentioned it. I don't need those. I mentioned it in the last video, and I believe I've mentioned it in the past as well. Um, what we have though, because I looked for like a video that we could watch together and that I could pause and we could talk like usual. But a lot of the videos I found on YouTube for about Padre Pio, about the 3 days of darkness, or anything about Padre Pio for that matter, they're kind of hard to watch. They're like almost like lectures or even like sermons. Not saying that sermons are necessarily hard to watch, but a lot of the videos that I found on him were hard to watch. So what we have tonight is kind of like a little biography that I found on Padre Pio that we'll read real quick because I wanted to talk about the stigmata he had as well. And then I actually have the whole prophecy, and I was going to read that out. We'll talk about that a little bit. I also wanted to talk about that dream that I've mentioned to you guys before that I had when I was like 16 years old. Because when I was reading Padre Pio's prophecy, it literally brought me back to that dream that I had. So, and I told Richie earlier, I was like, even if like only 200 people see this video, maybe this is the 200 people that God is trying to, get this prophecy out to. It's even in Revelation, it talks about, the elect and the ones that will be chosen. So maybe this message it's targeted, I guess, right? It's going to reach who it needs to reach, and that's how I feel about that. But so we're going to pull this up real quick. I might mute my mic every once in a while to just clear my throat. Okay. And we'll do this. I don't need the headphones until the end. Okay. So this is Padre Pio. He, like I said, he had the stigmata, and stigmata is, um, make myself bigger here. Stigmata, it's happened to quite a few people throughout time. And what it is like the appearance of blood coming out of someone's. It should be their wrists, and I believe that may be why Padre Pio's stigmata came into question at some point. But what it is when people have like holes that appear in their hands and they'll bleed, they'll have them in their feet. It's the wounds of Christ appearing on somebody without them doing something to receive those wounds. I have like a piece of cat hair stuck on my face. So he had that, and he's the one that prophesied about the 3 days of darkness, and he actually prophesied it about it over time. And when I was thinking about doing this video, when I was looking up Padre Pio and everything, there's actually a movie that's being released this year. I'm not sure if it already has been or what, uh, but it has Shia LaBeouf in it, and he is who's playing Padre Pio. So I thought that was interesting that they're making a movie about him as well. uh, so now Saint Padre Pio was an Italian priest who was known for his piety and charity, as well as the gift of stigmata. Like I said, that's the wounds that appeared on his hands and feet. His wounds appeared. Now, this is another thing. And what I like when I was talking about this before, before now, when even if he faked his stigmata, right? That doesn't discredit what he prophesied, because he had a vision of something, and he wrote it out and he told it to people. And the way everything's worded. It sounds almost like Revelation in a way and very targeted, like I said. So I believe the people that need to hear this are gonna hear this, and it's important. It's something we should definitely talk about. I've only briefly mentioned the 3 days of darkness, but it's what the 3 days of darkness is. I keep doing this back and forth here on you guys. What the 3 days of darkness is, it's comparable to when God told Lot and his wife to get out of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And when Lot's wife turned back, she turns to a pillar of salt. This is very similar to that. Nobody can look outside, go outside. If you have animals, barn animals that are outside, you give them enough food for 3 days and you board up all the windows that they could see out of. Nobody is to look outside. Um, and and people who need to hear this are gonna. So he was a priest who was known for his piety and charity, as well as the gift of stigmata, which has never been explained. Saint Padre Pio was born Francesco Forgione on May 25th, 1887, in I'm not even going to go for that. In Italy, his parents were peasant farmers. He had an older brother and three younger sisters, as well as two siblings who died in infancy. As a child, he was very religious, and by the age of 5, he reportedly made the decision to dedicate his life to God. Now, he asked his parents if he could go to this like monastery. He wanted to live there, but he wasn't educated enough. They told his parents that he needed more education before he could join. So I'm not even sure if this is in here, but I read this somewhere. His father moved to America and sent all like most of the obviously he needed money to survive, but he sent most of his money back home to them so Padre Pio could attend school, gain the education he needed to join this this monastery. So he at a very young age wanted to dedicate his life to God. So all these things matter, even if the stigmata came into question. Fortunately, his parents were was this playing the whole time? It was, right? Hold on a second. No, we're in the right spot anyway. Fortunately, his parents were also very religious and they supported his Catholic development. His family attended daily mass. Francisco served as an altar boy at his local parish. Francisco was known for taking on penances, and his mother once scolded him for sleeping on a stone floor. Penances are when people punish themselves for sins. Um, it's a Catholic thing for sure, but people will punish themselves if they feel they've done wrong. Francisco's community, that's why he was sleeping on a stone floor. Francisco's community was also supportive. Saints' days were popular celebrations and commonly celebrated in his town. From his tender age, Francisco had a peculiar ability. He could see guardian angels. Now, children have a capability. All babies have this capability. It's been said that when babies smile in their sleep, it's because they're dreaming of heaven and the angels. They just came from there, right? So babies and children absolutely have the capability of seeing angels, of seeing spirits, of seeing even demons if they were to be around. Okay. Children have the gift. It's not until they get older that they start to lose it, whether it be because their parents tell them they're not seeing something or whether it actually be because of the calcifying of the pineal gland. But that's a whole another topic, and we're not going to get into that right now. Fluoride, big calcification of the pineal gland. So he could see guardian angels. He spoke with Jesus and the Virgin Mary. This was not something taught to him, but occurred so naturally that he assumed other people could see them too. So he saw angels and he never even thought to say anything, which is something that's believable. It, a child would think everybody could see what they could see. Why wouldn't they? Right? Although Francisco and his family was very religious, they were also very poor, which required that he work. He spent many years as a child tending to a small flock of sheep owned by his family. Unfortunately, the work meant he was unable to attend school regularly, so he quickly fell behind other kids his age. Again, this is why he wasn't able to get into this monastery. So Francisco was sickly as a child. They were poor. Back in these times, if you were poor, that meant you didn't eat. You didn't eat, you weren't healthy, right? And back in 1886 and after, most of his life, I'm sure he was poor. Uh, even being a monk, they limit themselves to things. So he was sickly as a child, and he suffered an attack of gastroenteritis at the age of 6. And when he was 10, he had typhoid fever. Back then, these things were a big deal. In 1897, after 3 years of schooling, Francisco expressed to his parents that he wanted to become a friar. His parents traveled to a nearby community of monks and asked if Francisco could join them. He was evaluated, despite his young age, and was told that he needed more education before he could join. To prepare Francisco, his parents decided to hire a private tutor. To pay the cost of the tutor, Francisco's father traveled to America to find work and sent the money home. So it is in here. I knew maybe I read it from here. I didn't read this whole thing. Um, at the age of 15, Francisco was finally ready, and he entered the novitiate of the Capuchin friars at Morcone. He took the name Pio in honor of Pope Pius, who Pius the First, whose relic he often saw at his local chapel. I may be chopping some of these names. At the age of 17, Brother Pio became extremely ill and could only digest milk and cheese. That's that's odd because milk and cheese curdle in your stomach. He was sent to the mountain for better air, and when this did not work, he was sent home to his family. Amid all this, he continued to study for the priesthood. On one occasion, during prayer, a fellow monk astonishingly reported he saw Pio levitate during an episode of ecstasy. So, someone else saw Padre Pio levitating at a young age. Brother Pio became a priest in 1910, was permitted to remain home because of his poor health. In 1915, with World War I afflicting the world, Padre Pio was summoned for military service. He was compelled to leave a tiny community of monks with whom he was then housed and drafted into medical service. However, he was so sickly, see, most of his life spent like this, that he was often sent home, only then to be recalled for service. In March 1916, he was finally dismissed because of his poor health. On September 20th, Padre Pio was hearing confessions when he felt pain in his hands and feet. He noticed the stigmata, the wounds of Christ appearing on his hands. Okay. Um, Again, this was brought into question, right? Um, and I would say, logically speaking, right? I like to look at everything from every angle. If he was in confession, that means he was in a very private booth, right? With someone on the other side. It's also been said that his wounds, it's not in this. I know it's not in this. It was in something I watched. Like I said, everything was really hard to watch. It was said that his wounds smelled sweet. They didn't even smell like bloody or nasty, or, they didn't have like the smell of blood to it. They smelled sweet. Now, those blood capsules that people get for Halloween that they bite? That's made with corn syrup and dye, right? And it looks a lot like blood, and it would smell sweet. I I don't know, and I'm not saying he did fake it, because that's not okay of me, obviously. But logically speaking, it's possible that, he faked the stigmata, but maybe that was necessary for the prophecy he was about to be giving to be heard. Do you get what I'm saying? So even if he faked it, all right, maybe that was something he had to do. Maybe it was even something he was instructed to do by God, right? People do speak to God. I speak to God all the time. Um, Maybe it was something he was instructed to do because the words he was going to give later on mattered a lot. So, um, again, the prophecy, it's something important. So, he noticed the stigmata, the wounds of Christ appearing on his hands and feet. The experience was painful. Bleeding occurred. The wounds smelled of roses. See, that smells sweet. And although they continued to weep, they never became infected. Doctors who later examined the stigmata were amazed at their perfectly round shape. Okay. By 1919, the word began to spread about Padre Pio's stigmata, and people came from far away to examine him. So, again, who am I to say? Really? Padre Pio became popular with the people he encountered and soon began to attribute supernatural occurrences to him. For example, he was said to levitate and able to perform miracles. Now, other people saw him levitating, and being able to perform miracles is, in a way, um, being I hit the wrong button. Being given the gifts of Christ, right? Padre Pio never claimed to be Christ, which people have claimed to be Christ, and that's absolutely blasphemous. But he was given the gift of sight and he was able to perform miracles. These things are important. The words he gave to us are so important. His popularity became a source of concern for the church and the Vatican, began to restrict his activities to minimize public interaction. Padre Pio himself was uncomfortable with his newfound popularity and the attention he received because of his stigmata. A church investigation into his stigmata concluded that his condition was not faked. So, there you have it. He was investigated by many doctors, and the church concluded that it wasn't faked. He was able to perform miracles, and the fact that he didn't like the attention he was receiving, all these things, like all these things to me speak to me that this is a true prophet. By 1934, the Vatican began to change its attitude towards Padre Pio, and he was again allowed to perform public duties. He could preach, despite never being officially licensed by the church to do so. Pope Pius XI encouraged people to visit him. But in 1947, I think that would be Friar Carol W., not even going to go and attempt that one, visited Padre Pio, who prophetically told him he would rise to the highest post in the church. Friar Carol W. became Pope John Paul II in 1978. So he was right there. He had the gift of sight. Padre Pio, I don't think it's in this at all, but he also knew when he was going to die. He told someone, I don't remember. Oh, a man who photographed him. Okay. There was a man who photographed him with his hands. You guys see me kind of like this, right? And you could see his perfectly round wounds in his hands. Now, that is another reason why it's debatable because Christ would have been nailed in the wrist. If you were to crucify someone by nailing them in the hand, the weight of the body would rip them off. So, crucifixion happened within the wrist. Even bones that are found, it happens in the wrist, not the palm of the hand. But anyway, um, someone who photographed him was arrested because they said that the photograph was faked. And he came to Padre Pio and told Padre Pio, I was arrested because of you, yada, yada, yada. I spent time in prison. And Padre Pio told him that we had 50 years left. We, as in them too, I'm assuming, not as in everybody. So this man came to visit Padre Pio every year for 50 years. And every year, Padre Pio would say how many years they had left, counting down, all the way to we have 40, we have 30, we have 20, we have 15, 10, 5. And then the 1 year mark came, and the man who had photographed Padre Pio in the past started to become anxious and scared, right? Um, then the time came that time was up. And this man visited Padre Pio and was very, very excited and, not excited in a good way, obviously, but terrified, right? And Padre Pio told him, that the time was up or whatever. And the man had left. And 2 days later, Padre Pio died. On the day Padre Pio died, I believe it was his brother or someone that was with him. And he had been asking what time it was all day long. And his brother kept telling him what time it was. And then at a certain time, he had asked to go out to the balcony. So they went out to the balcony and they sat. Padre Pio looked to a certain area and had this blank stare on his face, and brother sat with him. Um, and at a certain point, Padre Pio's face became very pale, and he just had this, kind of scared look on his face, and he had passed away after that. Um, So it's believed that Padre Pio knew the exact time and day that he was going to die. He had told this other man, the man that photographed him, that they had 50 years left. 2 days after the man visited him, Padre Pio passed away. The man that had photographed him, though, had lived on for another 15 years. So I guess it was said in a way, it was Padre Pio's way of, it was just who he was. You know what I mean? Kind of uh, jokes on the guy that photographed him, right? Um, he was human, like all of us. So, Padre Pio used his newfound popularity to open a hospital in San Giovanni Rotondo. The facility opened in 1956. Pope Paul VI reviewed the controversy surrounding Padre Pio and dismissed any concerns over his conduct and the authenticity of his stigmata. Padre Pio became internationally famous. He was known for his piety, charity, and the quality of his preaching. He famously advised, pray, hope, and don't worry. Excuse me. He had other illnesses as well, including cancer, which was miraculously healed after just 2 treatments, which that's amazing. Other problems such as arthritis, which plagued him in his later years, never went away. Padre Pio died on September 23rd, 1968. His funeral was attended by over 100,000 people. Pope John Paul II recognized Padre Pio as a saint on June 16th, 2002. His feast day is September 23rd. He is the patron of civil defense volunteers, adolescents in the village of I can't even do it. Pietrelcina. Not sure. I know how to speak Spanish pretty decently, a good a fair amount of it, but Italian I do not. So they're similar, but they're not quite the same. So this this is what we need to do. When the time comes that we need to do this, we're going to have signs beforehand. The elect, which is what is said in Revelation and what Padre Pio says as well, will be told when the time is coming, right? So, again, the people that need to see this video is going to reach them, right? I believe that especially people, maybe from the ages of like 30 to 50, need to hear this more. They might even not know of Padre Pio. I didn't know much of Padre Pio, but I did know of this prophecy. And that's why I believe that the people that need to hear it will receive it. The dream I had was absolutely phenomenal, and I will tell you bits of it when we get into Padre Pio's prophecy because it amazingly lines up with that quite well. And it also lines up with a part of Revelation quite well, which at the time that I had the dream, I had not read the book of Revelation yet. I had not heard these words. And though when I had repeated to my mother, because I came upstairs, I was like all sweaty, I was scared. I was bawling my eyes out, and I was like, Mom, I just had this dream. It was so real. I could feel things, I could smell things. I could smell flesh burning, right? There was just fire everywhere. Uh, there were meteorites just coming in from everywhere, hitting the ground. Everything was on fire. Um, it was a crazy dream. But in my dream, the news kept saying, go outside tonight and look at the stars. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I kept hearing that. It's a beautiful thing, right? Um, and so it was like basically something that the news was talking about. Obviously, that was going to be some great astrological event, and that go outside and watch it tonight. It's going to be beautiful. That's how it was being portrayed in my dream. But when that night came, it was not a beautiful thing. Um, Absolutely terrified when I had this dream. So this message needs to be heard. And when this time comes, you have to cover up your windows. You don't necessarily have to board them up. You could tape stuff over them from the inside. Um, but from we'll just get into this. January 28th, 1950 is when Padre Pio stated this. Keep your windows well covered. Do not look out. Light a blessed candle. which will suffice for many days. So, when you hear that, right? Light a blessed candle, which will suffice for many days. It's like the, you know, when in the Old Testament, the what is that thing called? I don't know. I'm not Jewish, but the for Hanukkah, the thing they use. I sound ridiculous now because I don't even know what that's called. But that thing that they light, it's in representation of when only a little bit of oil was left, but the candle lasted for much longer than it should have. It was basically light given by God, and that's what this is saying here. Is that you light a blessed candle and it will suffice for many days, right? Pray the rosary and read spiritual books. So you have to put this energy out there of your spirituality, your closeness to God. Speak to God, pray for your family, give yourself up to the Lord, lay yourself down at his feet, right? Give yourself, you put yourself at his mercy. Make acts of spiritual communion, also acts of love, which are pleasing to us. Pray with outstretched arms, right? This is something, this is how we're supposed to be praying. The palms of our hands are like energy receivers. This is like a Masonic trick, I would say, right? The putting together of your hands and praying, that's closing your energy receivers. When you are praying to God, you are supposed to, sorry, my arms. All right. Anyway, so when you're praying to God, you are supposed to pray with your arms outstretched and your hands up in the air. Your palms of your hands are your energy receivers, and they are where you can send your energy towards the Lord as well. So it's the way this is written, it all speaks to me as truth. So pray with outstretched arms or prostrate on the ground, as in roll, like lay yourself out on the ground. In order, because that as well, you're laying yourself on the earth. The earth is a living thing, and it is well the passage and moving of energy, right? In order that many souls may be saved. So you don't just pray for yourself either. You pray for everybody else who's heard this prophecy and is aware of it and is taking heed of the words of the Lord that were given to Padre Pio. I believe this so very much because it lines up with this dream I had. Do not go outside the house. Provide yourself with sufficient food. Make sure you have enough food for this time, right? And it's kind of interesting because they always tell you to make sure you have at least 3 days of food, even in like a to go bag, an emergency bag, at least 3 days, right? So God will reach the people that need to be reached. Uh, I just recently started making sure we have like oatmeal and just dry things in the house, just buying little things here and there. Make sure you always have enough food in your house to last you for a little while. Stock up. We talked about this before. It's time to stock up on anything that you can. Buy a dehydrator if you can. Um, so provide yourself with sufficient food. The powers of of nature shall be moved. And a rain of fire shall make people tremble with fear. So the powers of nature shall be moved, meaning this is going to be something as we've never seen before, something completely unexplainable. Things like, the warning signs we've been receiving lately, lots of things lately that have been happening are unexplainable, right? So we are seeing these signs already. The powers of nature shall be moved, and a rain of fire shall make people tremble with fear. Have courage. I am in the midst of you. Have faith in the Lord. Give yourself up to God, right? He will protect you. Oh, sorry here. If you know, right? You know your faith in the Lord. You give yourself up to the Lord and you put yourself at his mercy, you will be saved. But take heed of these words, follow. February 7th, 1950. Take care of the animals during these days. I am the creator and the preserver of all animals as well as man. So some animals are basically going to know what to do in this time as well. God is, he is all powerful and can do anything. He can manipulate reality, right? So I am the creator and the preserver of all animals as well as man. I shall give you a few signs beforehand, at which time you should place more food before them, the animals, right? I have animals I feed outside. I'm going to make sure there's food out there for them. And I even have a little box built for a cat that lives next door and comes and sleeps over at my house sometimes. But there's shelter outside of my house as well. I'll put food out for them as well. This is what we're being instructed to do. Farm animals, you put enough food out for 3 days, water out for 3 days, and you close them up. They cannot see outside either. I will preserve the property of the elect, including the animals, for they shall be in need of sustenance afterwards as well. Let no one go across the yard even to feed the animals. He who steps outside will perish. Like Lot and his family were instructed. Cover your windows carefully. My elect shall not see my wrath. Have confidence in me, and I will be your protection. Your confidence obliges me to come to your aid. Now, you guys have seen some of those photos from the fires that were in California where, like, some houses were just completely untouched, but everything around them was burned up, right? You've seen this happen. Have faith in the Lord. We're being told that what's going to happen out there will not happen to our homestead. Our homes, our animals, our families will be protected, but we cannot look outside. We cannot peek. You can't go outside, nothing. Someone knocks on your door claiming to be a family member and even says things that only this family member would know. You don't open your door. That's what this is going to be. Cover your windows carefully. My elect shall not see my wrath. Have confidence in me, and I will be your protection. Your confidence obliges me to come to your aid. Have faith. The hour of my coming is near, but I will show mercy. A most dreadful punishment will bear witness to the times. My angels, who are the executioners of this work. The book of Revelation talks about how the angels pour out the seven seals, right? There, the executioners of this work are ready with their pointed swords. The angels will come and things are going to get cleaned up. But the wrath of God isn't always like the wrath of God is something terrifying. But the elect, and when I say the elect, I mean those who believe in him and follow this and believe, put all of their self at God's mercy, they will be saved. They, the angels, will take special care to annihilate all those who mocked me and would not believe in my revelations. Hurricanes of fire will pour forth from the clouds and spread over the entire earth. My dream was exactly that. Storms, bad weather, thunderbolts, and earthquakes will cover the earth for 2 days. An uninterrupted rain of fire will take place. It will begin during a very cold night. So, and think about it. If there's no sunlight for 3 days, the earth's going to be cold. All this is to prove that God is the master of creation. Those who hope in me and believe in my words have nothing to fear because I will not forsake them, nor those who spread my message. Tell people, tell your loved ones. You know, even if Padre Pio was wrong, what does it hurt to know this? What does it hurt to tell your loved ones this? If he's wrong, then he's just wrong. If he's not, you're saving their lives and you're saving your own. It doesn't hurt. No harm will come to those who are in the state of my grace and who seek my mother's protection, Mother Mary. It's a very Catholic thing. That you may be prepared for these visitations, I will give you the following signs and instructions. The night will be very cold, the wind will roar. After a time, thunderbolts will be heard. Lock all the doors and windows. Talk to no one outside of the house. As I said, people will come to your door and claim to be someone in your family and know things. They're not going to be them. Kneel before a crucifix, be sorry for your sins, and beg my mother's protection. Do not look during the earthquake because the anger of God is holy. We're talking apocalypse, right? We're talking revelation. Jesus does not want us to behold the anger of God because God's anger must be contemplated with fear and trembling. Those who disregard this advice will be killed instantly. The wind will carry with it poisonous gases, which will be diffused over the entire earth. Those who suffer and die innocently will be martyrs, and they will be with me in my kingdom. So, those there will be people who die during the end times, right? There will be people who go through part of the tribulation but don't make it all the way through. This is said in the Bible and in Revelation. Those people who don't make it to the end of the tribulation, right? The end of the apocalypse, the end of life as we know it, not the end of life, but the end of life as we know it. There will be people who die, but were people of faith, right? Those people will be with God instantly. Don't be of little faith. Satan will triumph, which we know. Satan triumphs now. He is the ruler of the earth now. We know this. But after 3 nights, now in the end in Revelation, Satan is getting close to the end of his time, right? The end of his being, just period. So he's going to kick it up a few notches. But after the 3 nights, the earthquakes and fire will cease. Satan knows that his time is nearing an end. He is well aware of that. On the following day, the sun will shine again. Angels will descend from heaven and will spread the spirit of peace over the earth. A feeling of immeasurable gratitude will take possession of those who survive this terrible ordeal. The impending punishment with which God has visited the earth since creation. Now, in Revelation, it talks about the end of the tribulation and it talks about God coming to the earth and living with us and there being 1,000 years of peace before once again this is when Satan is done. After 1,000 years of peace, there will once again be this great battle between good and evil. But that is when God puts his foot down and they are no more. Basically, you know how energy cannot change form, it can only or cannot dissipate, it can only change form, right? Um, just like that, being like a law of physics, God is going to make Satan, all the angels that fell with him that do not seek forgiveness, because they could be saved still. And all people who just didn't seek forgiveness, even in their time in hell, all evil will be no more. So that energy will actually be gone. It will not change form. It will not be anything anymore after the end of the end, right? I have chosen souls in other countries too. This is what I found interesting because, like I said, this message is going to reach who it's supposed to reach. So, those who hear this tonight and those who tell their family members and spread this word, it's going to reach who it's supposed to. And he even says this. I have chosen souls in other countries too, such as Belgium, Switzerland, Spain, America as well, shall I say, who have received these revelations so that other countries also may be prepared. Pray much during this holy year of 1950. That wasn't stating like that that's when this was going to be happening. That was the end. That was when this was he stated these things, right? Pray the rosary. Oh, he also stated that 1950 was the beginning of something, right? Like the beginning of the end, basically. I would like everybody to know my side rants, I can't help it. I would like everybody to know I've said this before and I stick to this. I believe aliens, grays, whatever have you, they are not aliens. They're not from other planets. They are angels or demons. They're interdimensional. Yes, they may take vessels or vehicles to get here, but that doesn't mean they're from another planet. To enter our dimension in our time space continuum, right? Um, they may need a vessel. They have to probably change form just to get here. I believe that they are angels as well as demons. Now, in the 1950s, all of the documents that have been released by the CIA, it's well known that that's when UFO activity had increased. Um, there was a point where nuclear missiles were fired from America to Russia and Russia to America, right? But they were never actually fired. It was a false alarm. Um, these UFOs have gone to multiple different they've taken out nuclear weapons before. Now, aliens from another planet wouldn't give a flying okay if we were bombing each other, all right? They wouldn't care, honestly. Um but angels and demons could stop these things, right? So, at one point there was a false alarm. I think we actually fired. They fired back. It was going to be the end of all things. And the UFOs, right? UFOs, the vessels showed up and destroyed the weapons before they made their target. These are the miracles that have been performed over time. They're not aliens. Um 1950 is when Padre Pio said it was the beginning of the end, right? That's when the UFOs showed up. Just just saying. So pray the rosary, but pray it well, so that your prayers may reach heaven. Soon a more terrible catastrophe shall come upon the entire world, such as never before has been witnessed. A terrible just chastisement never before experienced. The War of 1950 shall be the introduction to these things. This is what I'm saying. Okay. This is when the angels showed up. How unconcerned men are regarding these things, which shall soon come upon them, contrary to all expectations. How indifferent they are in preparing themselves for these unheard of events, through which they will have to pass so shortly. The weight of the divine balance has reached the earth. The wrath of my Father shall be poured out over the entire world. This is something that I want people to Oh, I'm sorry, I hit my mic. That was probably loud for you guys. I apologize. Uh, God's done cleanses before, okay? I want people to understand that this happening, like, this is like people blaming God for bad things that happen in their life. You can't do that. We were given free will. Things happen. We're on a journey. We're here to learn something, right? Um, this has to happen. So you have to understand that these cleansings have happened in the past and they're going to happen again in the future. This is God cleaning up and taking the everything out because it's just gone too far. Okay? We all know this. We all know it's gone too far. It's it's not something that's a secret, right? Things have gone too far and God's going to put his foot down. He's done it before. He did it when they were building the tower the Tower of Babel, right? We have a I've seen have you guys seen the commercials for the Babel language learning kit? I mean just the consciousness of man, the things we say, the things we do. The earth has just gotten so evil, right? Like Satan has taken over everything. It's in everything on TV. It's in the movies, it's in ads, it's in It's in everything. If you look hard enough, you're going to find the signs and symbols, right? We've talked about these things in the past. The signs and symbols are everywhere. They're even built into our homes, okay? The time is here. It's time for cleanup. I am again warning you, or warning the world through your instrumentality, as I have so often done heretofore. The sins of men have multiplied beyond measure. Like I said, it's just that's see, this is what I mean. I didn't even read this. I swear to you on everything I love, I have not read this whole thing. I just screenshotted them. I put them together for a video. I have to get everything together from the time I wake up in the morning on Sunday to the time I sit down and start talking to you guys. I'm working on a video. I'm putting the intro together, I'm putting the outro together, I'm putting the video together. I'm doing research. I do research over the week too, but I don't put the video together until Sunday because that's when I have my husband home and he can watch the baby. So I didn't even read this yet. And right before this verse comes up, I just said this to you guys. These are the signs. It's not a coincidence. Coincidences don't exist. I just said this to you guys. The sins of men have multiplied beyond measure. I literally just said this to you guys. This is what I mean. The people that need to hear this are going to hear this. But please, please, for the love of God and all that is good and holy, please spread this message to your friends and your family, your loved ones. Spread this message in any way that you can. You can share my video. It's probably going to be long and people aren't going to want to watch the whole thing, but spread the message in any way you can. Just tell people. Tell people about it. Tell them how to prepare. Irreverence in church, sinful pride committed in sham religious activities. Like the I can't even say it, but the very colorful churches. We know about that, right? We know about the things that are happening in some churches. We've talked about them just a couple months ago. Lack of true brotherly love. Nobody gives a crap about anybody anymore. Nobody even wants to talk to anybody anymore. Indecency in dress. We know this. Look at TV. Look at things that in the past would not be okay on cable television. Totally okay now. They say words that were not okay in the past. The I think I was in like middle school when Janet Jackson had the clothing freaking thing that happened when Justin Timberlake, ripped her shirt and it just fell out, you know, just all out there. So that was aired live on TV. And I feel like that was the beginning of when they were like, you know what? Who cares? We're just gonna slowly start showing everything and not restricting anything anymore. So it's just indecency and humanity, especially at summer seasons, in decency and dress, especially at summer seasons. When he said this, it was 1950. Look at it now. They have bathing suits that don't even have the, the like bathing suits bottoms usually look like underwear. They cover the whole butt, right? They have ones that look like thong underwear. People just wear these at beaches in front of kids. Nobody cares, right? Uh, that wasn't a thing in 1950 is what I was trying to get at. So this is something he saw beforehand. The world is filled with iniquity. This is just it's also true as to our time, and the warning is meant for us. Just like the book of Enoch. I got to get back to reading that to you guys because that is for us. The book of Enoch and what is stated in the book of Enoch that was meant for our time. It was a message meant for us. The book of Enoch belonged in the Bible, but the powers that be made sure that it wasn't. But God made sure that at least Revelation made it in. So the warnings were there. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all of those as well have prophecies of the end days. So the warnings were there, but the book of Enoch should have been, I'm pointing up there because I have it up there. Should have been in the Bible. This catastrophe shall come upon the earth like a flash of lightning, at which moment the light of the morning sun shall be replaced by darkness, almost as if God is just going to snatch the sun right out of the sky, right? This is going to be something that is Like I said, you can't explain it. Science can't explain it, but it's going to happen. No one shall leave a house or look out of a window from that moment on. I myself shall come amidst the thunder and lightning. The wicked shall behold my divine heart. My dream was just so much like his warning that it scares me. There shall be great confusion because of this utter darkness, in which the entire earth shall be enveloped, and many, many shall die from fear and despair. Those who shall fight for my cause shall receive grace from my divine heart. Oh, we lost it. Hold on. And we lost it. So those who shall fight for my cause shall receive grace from my divine heart. And the cry, who is like unto God, shall serve as a means of protection to many. Have fear of the Lord. Have love of the Lord. Have nothing but love for and of the Lord, but also fear the Lord, for the Lord is great and the Lord is all powerful as well. And when it's time to clean up, it's time to clean up. However, many shall burn in the open field. Oh my God. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. I did my makeup tonight and I feel like I'm going to cry as I read this one. The dream I had when I was 16 was so very real. And the weirdness to it is that I remember it so well to this day. And I'm 34 years old. Um, I remember this dream like I had it last night. Okay. I don't even call it a nightmare. My mom says, she told me it was a vision. And the thing is, even in the Bible, it talks about people receiving visions, right? And in the end days. And I was 16 when this happened. So we're talking many, many years ago. But God's time and our time work very differently. Padre Pio stated that the start of the end was in the 1950s. And the fact that that's when all the UFO activity ramped up, I believe that it was the start of the end. The 7 years of revelation may not be 7 years in man time. Okay. Um, our time and God's time is not the same thing. But in my dream, there was fire burning everywhere. The trees were on fire. All the buildings were on fire. I looked over to my right, and there was a person standing there whose skin, like they were on fire, but everything was so hot because everything was on fire. Their flesh was just melting off of their bones, and I could smell the flesh burning. I could smell the hair burning. I could it. I can't even describe the smell to you, but it was like nothing I've ever smelled before. I could just the smell in the air was horrible because it was just like all this just stuff that shouldn't be burning was burning, right? Um and there was a great earthquake in my dream. The ground started to shake. It was just a crazy shaking. The ground opened up and I fell through the ground. And when I fell through the ground, now I don't think like that this is what's going to happen to me. This was just God showing me what was to come, right? And the best way you could show it to me personally, because it was meant for me, and maybe meant for me to tell as well. Uh, but I had fallen through the ground, like into the underground tunnels, maybe, but I fell into this room where there was this voice over an intercom that was telling people to do things, right? And we were all on these like there were these like lined up like metal bracket type things, but they were huge and people were holding on to them. It was almost like Squid Game, okay? If anybody's seen Squid Game on Netflix, it was something like that where like they would say something and you had to do what they said really quickly or everything shifted and you died. Someone right next to me had slit like I had jumped to where I had to jump and they went to jump there as well, but they did it too late. Everything was shifting and I went to grab them and they grabbed my arm like up here and when they pulled on my arm. It felt like my elbow had been dislocated. I felt the pain, and they had slid down my arm, and I tried to hold them, but I couldn't. Like, they fell almost immediately, but it felt like slow motion to me. But it like I couldn't hold them at all. Like, I couldn't hold their body weight. It was like the survival of the smartest. So almost like at some point the underground tunnels are going to be overpopulated or something, and they're going to be like, you know what, we got to get rid of some of these guys. I don't know, but that's what I saw in my dream. I smelt the flesh, I smelt the hair burning, I smelt things that I can't even begin to describe. And this prophecy sounds so much like my dream. Just everything was burning. And like I said, the news was advertising being outside. It's a beautiful thing. Go outside tonight. You have to witness this, right? I'm sorry, getting worked up over it. However, many shall burn in the open fields like withered grass. The godless shall be annihilated. So that afterwards, they just afterwards I'm guessing it's maybe mistyped. I got this off of a video. Afterwards, they just shall be able to stand afresh. On the day, as soon as the complete darkness has set in, no one shall leave the house or look out of the windows. You don't get curious. It's like Lot's wife. She got curious. What happened? The darkness shall last a day and a night, followed by another day and a night, and another day. But on the night following, the stars will shine again, and on the next morning the sun shall rise again, and it will be springtime. So, these 3 days are going to be cold, but everything's going to burn. Don't look outside. The air will be poisonous, but God will protect you in your home. In these days of darkness, my elect shall not sleep, as did the disciples in the Garden of Olives. They shall pray incessantly, and they shall not be disappointed in me. I shall gather my elect. Those that listen will be protected. Hell will believe itself to be in possession of the entire earth, but I shall reclaim it. Do you perhaps do you perhaps think that I would permit my father to have such terrible chastisements come upon the world if the world would turn from iniquity to justice? So, and see, that is like the angel that spoke with God about Sodom and Gomorrah and was like, what if there were 30 good people? And God's like, there's not 30 good people. What if there were 20 good people? There's not 20 good people. And eventually they get to, what if there was just one good person? And that was Lot and his family. So God sent an angel to warn Lot to get him and his family out of there and don't turn back and look. And that's what they did. Lot and his children made it, but his wife got curious. She looked and she turned to a pillar of salt. But because of my great love, these afflictions shall be permitted to come upon man. Although many shall curse me, yet thousands of souls shall be saved through them. No human understanding could fathom the depth of my love. Understand that God loves us in a way that is more unconditional than you could even begin to imagine. But anybody out there who has children, think of how you love your children or even pets. Like, people love their pets the same way, right? Think about how you love your pets or your children. You have this unconditional love for them. That is what God has for us times a billion. We can't even begin to fathom the way he loves us. And that's why this message will be received by those who need to hear it. Pray, pray. I desire your prayers. I speak to God all the time, and I feel like he does desire our prayers. I feel like in our time, in our age, that people just do not speak to God enough. Not enough people. God probably used to hear so many people speaking to him. He used to get prayers probably like all the time. At one time, a lot of the world was very religious. A lot of the world prayed. A lot of the world put God first. It's not like that anymore. Again, that's why it's time to clean up. Speak to God. Speak to God all the time. He'll talk back to you in ways that you can't even begin to imagine. Sometimes you'll be talking to God about something that's important in your life, and then all of a sudden, like, an ad will come on the radio and it will be like an answer to what you're saying. I don't know. There are so many ways that God will answer your prayers. and let you know that he's there and protecting you. He desires to hear from us. My dear Mother Mary, Saint Joseph, Saint Elizabeth, Saint Conrad, Saint Michael, Saint Peter, the little Therese, I'm not sure, Pharisee, sorry, the little Pharisee. Your holy angels shall be your intercessors. Implore their aid. Be courageous, soldiers of Christ. Know that if you have all your faith in God and you know that God is protecting you, be courageous. Have no fear. At the return of light, let everyone give thanks to the Holy Trinity for their protection. The devastation shall be very great, but I, your God, will have purified the earth. I am with you. Have confidence. Have no fear. This was Padre Pio. Like I said, if the easiest way for you to spread this information is to send my video to somebody, do it. If you think someone's willing to listen to it, and that's, you know, it's that was what Padre Pio had left for us. I'm telling you, my dream showed me these same things that were coming. And as I said, when I had this dream, I hadn't read Revelation out of the Bible yet. I came upstairs bawling my eyes out. My mother was like, yeah, she used to work third shift, so she had just gotten home from work, and I was waking up getting ready to go to work. Um, my mom looked at me and she was like, "What's the matter?" Like she could just see the expression on my face. And I sat down and I told her, in my dream, like it felt like hours had passed. And the weird thing was that I had woken up at like 5 something, right? Looked at the clock, saw what time it was. I got like 2 more hours of sleep. I went back to sleep and then I had this dream. And in my dream, it felt like so much time had passed, more than 2 hours. Let me tell you. Like I had lived a whole night and a day in this dream. And everything was so real. And I told my mom about them telling us to go outside. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Go look at the stars tonight. You're never going to witness something like this ever again. You have to go outside and see it. It's amazing, right? It was being advertised. And it was just fire and chaos and just death everywhere. And the smells, the sounds, the heat I could feel coming off the fire, it was just, it was too real for me to even begin to explain. It wasn't like a dream, okay? Um, I don't, my baby's crying upstairs. I can hear her. So, um, I'm going to get this started here for you guys. I would like to talk to you guys about, hold on a second here. And Padre Pio. I would like to talk to you guys about, oh my goodness, what was I going to say? I can't even remember now. Had something to do with this, but I like it's not something I want to get into tonight because it would be okay. So there's another sign of that we're living in the end times, right? The river Euphrates has begun to dry up, like the whole thing's drying up. And in Revelation, give me a second, I could tell you exactly the verses because me and Diane had talked about this. And it is Revelation 9:14 to 16, right? It talks about these these beings, these demons that were bound beneath the river, that when one of the angels of the, apocalypse pours out the seal, it's these angels will be released from beneath the river Euphrates. The river has begun to dry up, and where it is dried up, you can see that there are tunnels and there is a room that was built underneath the river that nobody ever knew about. And I'm guessing nobody's in it. So there's that. I was thinking maybe we could talk about that next week. Let me know what you guys think about that. Please share this video. Definitely give this video a like if you're watching it right now and you've made it this far on the replay. Please like the video. Get the algorithm to kick it up a little bit just so more people can hear this message. It's important that people hear this. Let me know if you want to talk about what I said, the river next week. I believe there's a video that I can chop up a little bit and put together for us to watch on that as well. I think it would be interesting. But I love each and every one of you. I hope everybody has an absolutely wonderful evening. Please take heed to this message. Share it with your friends and family. Let everybody know that you love. And like I said, if it's wrong, it's just wrong. If it's not, this information is important to know. As always, stay aware, stay awake, and stay vigilant. God bless you guys.